Welcome to How She Does It. This is the show where we really talk about work, life, and faith and how to manage all the things. So if you've ever wondered how other women are doing it, then this is the show for you. My name is Marva Smith and I am your host. And today I have with me my guest, Dr. Jodi Vermaas. And then she is just really going to talk with us about her life, her faith, and a new book that she just wrote. So welcome, Jodi. It's very, very good to have you.
Thank you, Marva. Yes, it's wonderful to be here and to be with your audience and to learn more about what you're doing to help women and inspire us and to get to share a little bit about my journey and what brought us together on this day. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. It's good to have you here. So Jodi, I know that you have just published your first book. I believe it's your first book.
Yes.
And I am just intrigued by the title alone. Make money, do good. Is that how it goes? Please tell us about your book and about your journey in writing that book. How did you get to this space?
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's a big question. Yes, I have my book here. Here it is. It's called Get Money, Do Good. And the title is a little bit edgier probably for some. It makes a little bit of discomfort, I think, when people read it, because those two things don't often go together. I had a friend who said, I don't think most people want to get money and do good. I think they want to steal money and do bad, But in my heart of hearts, I've always believed that there's something in us, something deeper, and that people want to make the world a better place. We're not here for very long, and I've always felt deep in my heart that we were meant to do something really important with the skills, the talents, the resources, whatever it is that we have. And of course, we all have those things. So the journey to that book, really, my story in that book is just a 10-year span. It's not a life story, but it's our memoir of the last 10 years, going from 2 biological children to now having 12, and we've just added another one, but that was post-book. So from 2 to a dozen children. So that's the story that the book tells and how we came to this very insane place. My children come from all over the world. I have 3 children from China, a girl from India, and 6 children from the Philippines. And we got there through tremendous ups and downs, many lost children, several interrupted adoptions, and ones that weren't able to happen, a lot of heartache. But at the end of the day, I have a group of children who need a lot of healing. They were all older adoptions. They were children who, some of them had been trafficked, some of them had been beaten up, left for dead, and sent away on a train. Their stories are difficult. Each one of their stories really warrants their own book. So this is just an overview. But everywhere we go, whenever we step outside the house in our 15-person passenger van, people stop us and they say, what's happening here? We look like a weird Asian birthday party or something. It's just a group of people from all over. And they often will say, tell us your story. And so after a couple of years of that, I thought, okay, I'm going to tell the story. I was an English major back at Columbia, so I thought I can do it. It was really a difficult journey because it's very vulnerable to talk about the ups and downs. My husband and I, Gary, we don't feel like we are awesome parents. We didn't go into this like, wow, we're great parents, we should do this. We went into it because we were living and working all over the world. And especially in India, we were in China a lot. And we had experiences that we couldn't shake, things that we saw, children being, just left on the side of the road. And we wanted to do something. And when I came back to the States, it haunted me. I felt haunted. And every day since then, I've woken up and just asked myself, there's 25 million kids in the world in slavery, many more than that in poverty. What am I going to do about it? What can I do? And our journey for the past 10 years has been, we started a nonprofit. Of course, we've worked through church ministries. We have a school in Haiti that we support and run. We've had amazing experiences. We've met amazing people. But at the end of the day, we never felt like we were able to get through the red tape the way we wanted to. And so somewhere in 2012, shortly after I lost my mom, who's my best friend, I felt a little bit lost. And I remember very clearly looking at my husband one day and saying, look, our business was taking off and we were doing well. And I looked at him and I said, how about we just scrap all of this? What everybody else thinks, the house, the cars, the stuff we were doing, the American dream. Let's see if we can go. And could go anywhere we wanted. Where would we choose to go so we could make as much money as we could and use every last bit of it to do some good? And so that's sort of where we ended up. We literally sold everything we owned. We have lived in too many places, which the book chronologues. And we've been very successful in business. And our goal was to use it and leverage it the best way we could to do good. And for us, we landed on adoption, obviously. We were able to gather 10, now 11, as many as we could. And our life is fuller than you would ever imagine. A lot of tears, a lot of heartbreak. We have not made it. No one looks at us and thinks, wow, they're such an impressive family. We are more like just a wild bunch trying to do the right thing. So that's it in a nutshell. There's a lot of ups and downs in the book. My firstborn child, Garrett, has autism. So he's one of the characters in the book. I tell it through 4 different perspectives. And he's one of the storytellers in the book. And it brings in just a very honest look at us. Being autistic, he's very black and white. He will often accuse us of being insane parents and point out everything we're doing wrong, as well as I tell the perspective from some of the lost children over in the Philippines that I wasn't able to rescue and their perspective on trafficking and what's going on in the world, as well as mine and Gary's and the struggles we went through in our faith, in our professional careers, in trying to balance it all and figure out our way forward so that we could, at the end of the day, say, we left it all on the field. We did as much as we could. At the end of my life, I can say I did it. I wasn't perfect, but man, I tried as best I could to do my part. So it's pretty passionate. It's pretty fun, a little bit crazy. And that's it in a nutshell. Get money, do good. That's sort of what we wake up and try to do every day. Figure out how in business to do our best, and then how to leverage that to make some changes. And the journey continues.
What a story, Jodi. I mean, as you laid that out for us, it really does talk about the hearts that you and your husband, Gary, have for those who are lost and hurting in this world. And I'm just really impressed by that as well. And you're right. I think when you do hear that title, Get Money, Do Good, it does raise some questions because, most people, especially in the Christian world, when we talk about money, there's this sort of, you don't want to have too much, or money is the root of all evils. Sometimes the thinking that we hear, what do you say to persons who are thinking that way and thinking that money, it's not about getting more money? Have you
Right.
even come across that sort of sentiment in your life?
Right. I had a pretty life-changing moment when I did my first adoption. My daughter Shia, I went and adopted a 4-year-old little girl. And it was right 2009, and I don't know where you were in 2009, but the economy was crashing spectacularly. Gary and I had a great business, then we were doing great. We were living in Florida, and we had, a lot of success. And I remember in September of that year when the market crashed, and all of a sudden Gary's phone just stopped ringing. He was doing architecture and engineering, and it just crashed. Everything stopped. The housing market, of course, the bubble we were in, we were overfinanced in our big house that we thought we needed, and our company stopped immediately. We were owed $1 million in AR, and it was not coming in. We were in debt because the money coming in, we couldn't cover the expenses and the hundreds of people we had on staff. And it was one of for my husband, the most difficult year of his life, as he had to downsize, as he had to let people go, as he had to scrounge around and figure out ways, because we were determined not to be in debt. We sold our house, we lost our house, we lost it all. in 2009 and decided to move overseas. We moved to the Middle East for 1 full year. We had 10 duffel bags. That's what we owned. Everybody got 2. You know, we started that journey. In the middle of all that, of losing all of that stuff, we were in the middle of an adoption for my daughter, Shia, my first adoption. Now, an adoption cost about $40,000. So a lot of people will tell me, well, what does money have to do with doing good? You know, I said, well, if you're going to adopt, you need at least 40 grand. And that doesn't count the bills that are coming. You know, when I brought my 6 home from the Philippines, we went to the dentist and it was a $21,000 bill with a discount that was about half off because each one of them had 12 or 13 cavities. So when you talk about, yes, we want to do good, it often costs money to do good. Doesn't mean you can't do good without it, but with what we were trying to do, we needed to keep working. So in the midst of getting Shia, we were losing it all. My husband was so worried. We were over in China adopting her while he was trying to save his company and negotiate to figure it out. And he was so stressed. And I'll never forget, we had our daughter that they had just handed to us. And we sat in this room with the Chinese officials and we were going to sign the paperwork. But first we had to pay our $7,000 in cash, our donation to the orphanage, which was an additional fee on top of all of the other fees. And I had this cranky toddler on my lap. She was distended belly. She had lice. She was screaming. She was just a wreck of a child. And we had to take our $7,000. They had to be $100 bills, brand new from the bank. And they put it into a money counter, which I had really not ever seen before. It's like something you would see on a drug show. And they put our dollars in there and they just sifted through to make sure we had counted every last 100, you know? And it was just my daughter on my lap and the doo, 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 doo. And I just remember having the thought that at that moment, my relationship with money changed. I was raised poor with my single mom. She was a cleaning lady. We went to scholarships. She told us, you will get an education and support yourself. It's how I ended up at Columbia on student loans. We were determined. We weren't going back there. And so my whole life, I was always so skeptical of money. It was sort of the evil to me too. I looked down on people who had money, like, who do they think they are, you know? But I just remember in that moment when that money counter was counting out that money, and I was not going to take that little girl home without that money. And my perspective switched. And I thought, you know, I need to be shrewd. And I need to see what's going on, and I need to do my best to be my best, of course, very fairly. We're going to make money the right way, but then to turn around and use it in ways that can do some good. And that's the moment for me it really changed, and I made a shift. I thought, you know what? I've always been tithing. I've always been donating. But instead of making money and giving it away, I'm going to make money and I'm going to do good myself. I'm going to get myself out on the field. And I think for people in church world, it feels real easy to kind of do your job, your modest income, because you don't really struggle if you make a modest income. You know, you don't have to really worry about money being something that is a temptation. You're just paying your bills and you're giving your tithe, so you feel great about that, and it's really comfortable. Yeah. My challenge would be for Christians to be the most successful in the world, to be able to use their money to win friends, as Jesus said. It's a hard thing to do because you will be tempted. When you are successful, you're tempted to have pride. You're tempted to spoil yourself. You're tempted to hold back. You're tempted on fear. There's a lot that comes into success. And I think it's actually an uncomfortable place for Christians. But we're not meant to live in a place of fear. We're meant to live in a place of, using every talent we have to show the world and to live in the world without being of the world. And then to leverage that for good. And my challenge for Christians really is not to feel good about tithing. I think we let ourselves off the hook. You know, we give our donation and we're like, check mark, you know, we've done our good, we're helping the poor. And I would argue, no way. And I have felt in my own life that that's a really easy way for me to feel good about myself. I'm just going to give a lot of money to this great cause. What's been harder for us is figuring out how to use our money for good. Yeah. That's the challenge, is every person, you know, I don't expect people to adopt a dozen children, but the book is meant to challenge you on what would you do when you make that little bit more? How will you use it for good? Not just giving it to the person that you think might be doing something awesome. I mean, that's a great thing too. But what can we do to get involved? Because that's where the change happens. Our giving is supposed to be something that blesses the person and blesses us. We're supposed to be involved in it. But let me tell you, when you go out and say, here, I have this extra money, what can I do? It's one of the most challenging questions you'll find. And people are often surprised. I've gotten hundreds of comments back from the people reading my book. Okay, I want to do good. What should I do? That's the question. That's the hard question. To figure out how to use your money in a way that's not self-serving, that doesn't make you feel important or get yourself attention, but a way that actually can be used to change lives. It's a tough thing to do. We have a nonprofit called Priority One Worldwide, and we started it back when we were sort of tired of just sort of donating and not knowing where our funds were going to. So we started a nonprofit, and our pledge of our nonprofit is every dollar that's given gets to the field, no overhead costs. So, like if there's a bank fee or a transfer fee, we just pay it. We're like, if anybody donates through us, we're going to get 100% to the field, because so few organizations are able to do that. So that's been the goal of our nonprofit. And then we went down to Haiti, and we have this wonderful school there. And we actually have, totally enough to support them. We have more than enough. It's been, our donors have been so generous. But we're very careful not to just throw money at something when we're down there. We want the people to be able to invest in what they're building. We don't go down and build their schools for them, which we could do, and it could be a lot faster. But we don't want to tell them how to do it. We don't want to emasculate the men down there and say, no, we're going to come in and do it. No, it's their job to do it. We're going to come in, we're going to support them, we're going to walk with them, and we're going to figure out ways to support them so that they can do it. And so our vision of nonprofit world is very different than what's out there. And I think a really good model, but it's taught us a lot. I'm tempted just to go and throw money at something to fix it. That's not really the way. The way is to come alongside people, to work with them, to be responsible, to really ask, what is the need here? Am I the person to meet the need? Is somebody else the better for it? And really have that humility so that true good can happen. And it's been a journey. I don't think we've arrived. I don't feel settled. I don't ever feel really content that we've done all that we can do. So I think that longing and that realization of how far we still need to go helps me balance success, if you want to call it that. I don't really think it's success. I think God has given us some talents that we can work with to earn money and use it for good. It's certainly not us. And so the burden really is on us to figure out, okay, if God has given us this, what are we going to do with it? And it is a burden. It's tough, but I think that keeps us balanced.
Yeah, because I'm sure it would have been very easy for you and your husband to just say, well, you know what, we've achieved this success. I mean, Gary being an engineer, very successful one, you having double PhDs, you guys have really done some good work. And I'm sure it was tempting to just sit back and say, okay, now we can enjoy life. But it sounds as if you've done the opposite. You've said, it's not enough. We now need to be able to make a difference in the lives of others. And not just by throwing money at a problem, but being able to get your hands dirty as well.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's true. And I don't even think it's an option for me. My husband would probably like it to relax a little bit more. But I'm not very content with just resting. I feel at peace. There's not a franticness, but there is just too much to do. Honestly, there's too much going on. There's too much hurt for me to feel comfortable to sit back, if that makes any sense. I have to force myself to do it. For me,
I have to tell you too, Jodi, that in reading the book, it's, I was thinking this morning, this should be an audiobook because the way you've told the stories and just, from each person's perspective, it really draws you in, and it makes you think about the issues that, children around the world are facing, for example, and the injustices that are happening. And then, how can we get involved? So for the persons who are asking that question, I want to make a difference, but I don't know what to do. What do you say to them?
Right. I mean, it really is the question. And for me, I think it's looking at where somebody's talents lie, where are their natural interests? Because I believe that the intersection of what we're good at, what we love, and where the need is, the intersection of those three areas, I think is where we'll really find meaning and success. I'm a counselor, I'm a mental health counselor by trade. I'm not afraid of children who are coming out of incredible abuse and trauma. As the book highlights, there's some pretty scary stuff that my children have faced. I have several children to this day who have never hugged me because of their trauma. I have children who I've gotten the calls from the school that my child was running down the hall to look for a knife to hurt himself. I have walked into children with belts around their neck. So these are not wonderful stories. They're not pretty. And I don't even know if all my kids will make it the way that I would dream for them to make it. As a counselor, I'm aware of these issues. I've counted the cost on these issues. And so for me, I'm not afraid of that. It's difficult. I cry a lot, but God has given me that talent and that training that I have to be able to look at it and understand this is what I can do. And then they've got to pick themselves up and take themselves the rest of the way. And I understand those boundaries, and I understand that there's only so much I can do, and then they have to make their choice. And so I think my training has enabled me to walk into a situation and say, I can take these kids. And my husband is just so phenomenal in, he has no hobbies. He doesn't even care to have a hobby. He's like, I'm going to work hard and then I'm going to take care of these kids. And so he has a gift for leadership. He has a gift for leading his firm and being successful. And so those two things really came together and allowed us to say, hey, here's some kids that nobody else really wants. They were on the adoption list of special needs. Some of them have brain damage. They were 13 years old when I got them. They were kids who might not otherwise be adopted. So we thought, we're going to enter there. That's where we see our need. But I think people have to really search themselves and say, what am I good at? What am I uniquely good at? Where is there a need? And it might be in our community. It might be across the world. I know right now we have an initiative at our church to support and to wrap our arms around foster families. They won't let me foster. 5 is the limit. So all I can do is wrap my arms around. I tried to foster and adopt in America, and they're like, you got too much. We can't, you move on. People are often say, well, why don't you adopt in America? And I'm like, we tried. But anyway, you have to look at the framework and see where the doors open. We've had as many doors closed as open, way many more closed than open. We have failed numerous times. We have lost several adoptions. There's plenty of things that have been lost to us that we have tried. And so I would tell the person, see where your passion is, see what the need is, and then get up and try. Get up and do it, because you won't know until you try. And then expect to fail 5, 6, 7 times. And you have to keep picking yourself back up. And I'll tell you what, Marva, the hardest thing in all of it, and that was my frustration that I said in the book, is that you're here and you're like, I'm willing to do anything. I want to help. I want to do good. Here I am. You'd be amazed at how many people don't care. How many social workers and adoption specialists and teachers and government agencies are like, that's nice. Just wait. We'll let you know how you can help. Because that is the message often of nonprofit world. Just wait, give us your money. We'll let you know what you can do. You have to be willing to plow through that. We go into a lot of meetings and people don't often always love what we have to say. We're respectful, but we're very honest, and we're not going to sit around and wait. We're going to figure out how to do good. And so there needs to be a tenacity about it. When you figure out what it is you want to do, it will not come easily. And it's a little bit shocking. You're like, I just want to help this kid, and it's just amazing sometimes how much opposition you have when you're trying to do something that is legitimately good. It's frustrating, a lot of tears. So I would encourage people to not give up. Because that intersection of what they're great at and what they're able to do in a desperate need is there. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think that people can do the most good.
Yeah. So find your sweet spot, be willing to fail.
That's
Don't
right.
give up.
That's right.
Yeah. Amazing.
And people are going to tell you to stop. People are going to tell you you're crazy. People are going to tell you you're doing the wrong thing. People are going to question your motives. So, I mean, that's been a sad part, I think, of the journey, mm-hmm. but one that gives you an opportunity to educate and to tell people why you do what you do. It's not always popular for an American family to take a non-American child. That is not popular, especially today. So we get a lot of criticism in that way. And that hurts because we know, for my son, for example, who speaks Chinese, I don't speak Chinese. I don't know his heritage. We could have left him in China. It probably would have been better for him if he could have stayed in his culture and been taken care of and nurtured there. But it wasn't an option for him. He had 6 months before he aged out and he was going to be thrown on the street. So we took him in, and it's particularly painful when people throw that back at us. You took him out of his culture. We did. We know that. It's such a grief for him that he has to try to learn this language. He's a senior, he's graduating this year. It's taken him 6 years to finish his high school career because he's just still learning to read English. That's hard. That's not the perfect scenario. And I don't claim that any of what we've done is the perfect scenario. So you have to be willing to face that and to say, yeah, it's not always ideal. Our world is broken. But if there's an area to do good, we're going to try to do it. And if you talk to him today, he would never trade the fact that he was in our family, even though there has been hardship. So I think all of our stories will have that in it when you reach forward to do good. It's not always easy, and it's not always without controversy.
Yeah. Clearly, you reiterate the fact that doing good requires some sacrifice. It does. And I know, Jodi, that you have a big family, you're a mom, you're working, you're doing all these things, and there's a question of managing all of it. For women who are working, this is the question: how do we balance all these things? Is work-life balance even possible? And that's some discussion that I'd like us to be able to jump into as well. How do you balance it?
Right. It's a funny question because I do executive coaching in our firm. And so we often do assessments on work-life balance. And it's always so fun to talk to people about that. And for me, I would say, and definitely for my husband, that we don't tend to draw that black-white between work and life. To us, it's just life. That might help me, it might not help somebody else. But to me, I look at my day sort of like, this is my day. And I think especially with COVID, it's like, there isn't work and kids, there's work and kids, like this. And I think that that's been really fun and challenging. So I think for me, it's all about being present, being 100% in the moment that I'm in. If I am reading a story to my child, I am reading a story to my child. If I am working or on the phone with a client, that is what I am doing. I'm not then also trying to juggle, my kid's Zoom call at the same time. If I'm cooking dinner, I get to chat with my family. I'm not trying to work as I'm doing it. And I think for me, trying to have that presence, believe me, I love multitasking. I'm all about that. But being able to be someone who's really attentive in the moment to the humans that are in front of you and that you're with, and really giving your ears to them. I try very hard to listen, to try to notice in the moment, what is the most important thing for me to do right now? Is it to finish this work, or is it this child who needs this? Is it my husband who needs time? Is it the laundry that's piling up? Which one is the moment of, which one needs the focus at this moment? And for me, trying to keep an open mind to that. I am very OCD. So I am very organized, and that probably helps me. I also get up extremely early, which people often laugh at, but I get up about 4:15 and I do it. It's my favorite time of the day. It's my time to read my Bible, to pray, to get laundry out the door, to take walks outside, to center myself, to be ready before the day starts. So for me, I would say if there was one thing that helps me, it's that time in the morning. I have to have it. I love it. I wake up excited every day for that time. And I think that that really helps me.
And it's finding what works for you, isn't it? Because for somebody else, it might be another thing. But for you, you found that that time in the morning, being organized, you know, that really helps start your day in a way that helps you to thrive.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I love
think it's
that point
important
too. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's important to have boundaries with people, with your lives, with your work. To be able to say no is a powerful gift. And I think that life doesn't really work without that.
Yeah, yeah. And the point you were making earlier about being 100% there when you're doing something, if you're with the kids and you're doing something with them, that's what you're doing. You're not multitasking. And I know I'm so guilty of that often. You know, I'm trying to work while I'm doing this, while I'm doing that. And it's like 4 or 5 things going at the same time. And that really isn't effective when you think about it. You know, but somehow we get this concept that if we do all these things, we'll get more done. It just doesn't work. So
That's right.
I appreciate that advice.
And I think just being in the moment is so hard for us because we're always thinking, right? We're always, we have a million miles a minute. For me, it's my thoughts, I would say, more than anything else. And so sometimes it's just being mindful of my body and space, like being able to take a deep breath, being able to feel the chair on my legs, being able to look around the room and use all my senses to kind of ground myself in, okay, this is the space I'm in. Maybe I need to shut my mouth a little bit and maybe I need to listen a little bit more to reorient myself when I start, thinking or talking too much. And I found that's sort of a good stopgap for me to say, whoa, let me put on the brakes here. And I do the same with my kids. Sometimes they're just talking way too much. It's like, all right, let's all take a break here. Let's all stop and think, what do we want in this moment?
Mm-hmm. So Jodi, as you talk to your kids and give them advice as to, okay, let's take a moment to breathe. If you were to think about the younger Jodi in her 20s, Jodi as a teen, what would you say to your younger self? That something that you wish you knew then?
Ooh, that's such a good question. Well, I think that in my 20s, I was much more of a perfectionist. And so I think I would tell myself that the best stuff often comes out of the messiest stuff and to embrace that. I think it's hard to fail and it's hard to do things differently than other people are doing them. And to recognize that maybe what I thought was successful isn't success. So I think I would probably school myself a little bit on that what success truly is probably different than what I thought, for example, when I was graduating Columbia and walking up and down the streets of New York City. And I really credit that to my children. My children have taught me how to measure success differently. I have many children who will never go to college. I have some who are abused so badly, their IQs and their ability, their memory and their executive functioning will never allow them to do that. I have children who, with autism who never look quite right to the outside world, and we get a lot of judgment on that. So they've taught me that those things aren't necessary to live a life that's meaningful, to live a life that makes a difference for other people. I expect every one of my children not only to be able to take care of themselves, but to take care of at least somebody else. And that's what we teach them. If you can live your life and you're not needing somebody to take care of you, you can make your way joyfully, and then you can help at least one other person, then you have succeeded. And that is the most beautiful life. And I didn't know that, and I didn't see that. And I think if I could go back, I would say, you're going to learn how to look at success a little bit differently than the world. And I think that has made all the difference.
Wow, I love that too. I think I could tell my younger self that as well. Amazing. Yeah. So Jodi, we have women who listen to this show, watch this show, and feel like, so I'm listening to Jodi and she's, really successful. She's done all these amazing things. I'm just not there, and this woman who's listening might be trying to do all these things, the work and the life and the career and the kids, but really struggling to hold it all together. What advice would you have for her?
I think when we're struggling to hold it together in terms of our life spinning us rather than us choosing who we want to be, that the answer really is the opposite, I think, of what most people say. I think often when we're frantic, we're sort of spinning our wheels, we're all, as women, as moms, wow, life is so hard. But we're often told, take a minute, just rest, take some time off. And it's not that I have anything against rest. It's a beautiful concept in the Bible. But I think sometimes we misinterpret that as I need time off or I need to move away from my life in some way to get a better perspective. And I don't think that that's the case. I think when we are unsure of what we're supposed to be doing and unhappy or discontent with the direction that we're taking, I think the answer is much more to start trying new things, to start really asking what excites me, what makes me feel alive. Of course, we love our husband, we love our kids, we work our jobs, we all do those things. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about the things that when you go to bed at night, and it's just you on your pillow, the things that you want to do deep inside you that you always dreamed that you would make a difference doing. We have a legacy that we're supposed to leave beyond our children. There is something else we can do and are supposed to do. There is great acts of inspiration that we are meant and called to accomplish in our lives. I believe that we're each made so differently. Certainly, if we were all supposed to be just be doing the same thing, we would just all look alike. But as it is, we are all so different. And I think it's important for us to stop asking what we should be doing and say, what do I want? Not in a selfish way, because I don't think really any of us, when we really ask ourselves, what do we want? I don't actually think it's going to be a selfish answer. I think all of us really individually want to see great things happen in our communities, in our neighborhoods, in the world. And there's a talent that we have that we can do something about. And I would encourage people to invest in that talent, to step up and start doing something with that talent. Because it's not going to just come to us. It's not going to just appear one day. We have to get up and start trying. And I would encourage them, get up and start to try something new. It might not be that you have a lot of time to do it, but try, begin. And I think our lives can become reorganized around something that excites us rather than the same old, same old. And that would probably be what I would say. And explore with them if I had more time. As you do in your awesome coaching.
Well, it leads me to my next question, Jodi. How can people get in touch with you? They want to follow up, continue this discussion. How's the best way to do that?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I love to talk to people, and I do a lot of, you can reach me anyway. My book site is getmoneydogood.com, so that's easy. And I have my email there. You can reach me there. I respond immediately. I'm always online, it seems. So that's super fun. And people can also email me directly, which is my name, Jodi, Jodi, at PriorityOneWorldwide.com. That's my nonprofit. So that's a super easy way to reach me as well. And I wanted to tell you, my book is out on audiobook, which is a whole different story. But my husband, myself, and my daughter recorded it with a gentleman named Mark Thompson in the New York City Church, who does incredible voiceover. So he does the voice of my autistic son. And so he's so humorous, it's so fun. So it's coming out on Audible soon, but it is available on Google Play and Apple, and it's all over the place, but it's a little bit late on Audible because Amazon is so busy, they can't figure it out. But yeah, to answer your question, if you want to laugh and hear us reading our book in our amateur way, it's available, and it was super fun to do it.
Well, I'm looking forward to that already, because as I read it, it's as if I'm hearing your voices already.
That's right.
So I can't wait to hear the Audible version. And, I think that's going to be so fun. So
Yeah,
I'll
it is. It
definitely
was
be
really
leaving that link
effective.
in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, Jodi, this was so fun and really so inspiring for me. And I know other women will be inspired as well. So I really just want to thank you for taking the time today to talk with us about Get Money, Do Good, and the experience that you have had with your family and the legacy that you're leaving. So thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Marvin. And thank you for what you're doing and all your work.
Yeah,
It's been fun.
bye.